ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ Namaste to all. Welcome to the second session of lessons from the Kali Santarana Upanishad, or how to cross Kali Yuga. And so this is a little recap for those who were not there earlier, or just to catch up. We talked about the the Kali Yuga itself and what kinds of difficulties it poses. Some of that we had the discussion. We talked about how, because of the decline in morality, ethics, that it causes a lot of confusion, to say the least. It causes confusion, it causes chaos, cacophony, and a lot of disharmony. And that disharmony is both external, and we also saw that it is internal. So within oneself, it manifests as raga and dvesha going wild, and all kinds of recalcitrant desires and anger, all these things. Emotionally, it is very easy to get emotionally dysregulated in this period. And so we saw some of that. We also saw why it is, what is the way in which, why it is called Upanishad, and what is the meaning of the word Upanishad. We saw Shad, that which disperses, that which uproots, and that which leads one to Brahman. And Upani being prefixes, what do? They talk about that which is the nearest to oneself, dearest to oneself, which is oneself alone. And then what do? And what does it do? It takes you back to Brahman, which is back to yourself. So this is something we have already looked at. So now, before we enter the text, and so if you're getting nervous that we haven't entered the text, don't worry. There is plenty of time. And before we enter the text, we need to equip ourselves with the background of two kinds of backgrounds. So one is the difference between the first portion and the second portion of the Veda. And the second is the second thing we need to equip ourselves with is an understanding, at least a broad understanding of the Hindu concept of time. So in this particular order, I will be discussing this today. So first is the first and the second portion of the Veda. The second portion is known as Vedanta. This itself is intriguing because usually, Vedanta means the last portion of the Veda. So when you're reading a book, you don't say, I have the book and its last chapter, because the last chapter is included in the book. Nobody says, I'm reading the book plus the last chapter. But here, one gets away by saying that. In fact, one must say that because it looks like the first portion of the Veda and the last chapter called Vedanta are geared towards completely different audiences, totally different audiences. The Upanishad appeals to people. The people who find the Upanishads appealing are slightly crazy, self-styled slightly crazy. Crazy means in the sense that all the other things that are offered in the world, which is the subject matter of the first portion of the Veda, does not really attract them. So the audience is completely different. So the audience means the people who are imbibing this knowledge. Veda means knowledge. So the first portion is also knowledge. The last portion is also knowledge. But the question is knowledge of what? That is a very big question, and we'll come to that presently. But for now, both are knowledge. But the knowledge that appeals to the people Subscribing to the first portion of the Veda is not at all the knowledge that appeals, is not at all, it's very different, vastly different, and in fact opposite to the knowledge that appeals to the second, the people who desire the second portion of the Veda. Why? Because the knowledge that is there in the first portion of the Veda is the knowledge of means and ends. Simply put, all the mantras, all the hymns called suktas, Shri Sukta, Purusha Sukta, and Durga Sukta, all these things, so many things. And all these are what? They are mantras. And the purpose of the mantra is to connect you, the jiva, connect one to the objects of desire. That is all the purpose of the first portion of the Veda is. So the means and the ends. It answers the question, how can I make my life more complete by dot, 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 dot. You fill in the blanks. Everybody can fill in the blanks depending on what they really want. So, how can I make my life more interesting, more complete, more exciting, more happy? And how can I do this? By having dot, 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 more money, more time, more people around me. And it's no use having people. I should be attractive to the people. And so, how can I have a magnetic, charismatic personality so that as soon as I walk into the room, it lights up? It lights up completely, and everybody is attracted to me. This is also a desire. And then it's not enough if you just excel. How to make sure that all the annoying people in my life do not excel? This is a very important pursuit, because it's no fun if everybody is excelling. They should not excel because they are annoying, and they, frankly speaking, they have no right even to be alive. Why are they there? And if they are there, then they should see me excel, and then they should not be excelling at all. There are spells like this. How to do this. I knew one. He's no longer in this body, but I knew one elderly gentleman who knew this mantra. He knew mantras, how to make people fail in tests and competitions. And one time he did that. Somebody gave him a lot of money. He told this himself. Somebody gave him a lot of money, and what he did was he made he mantrified. Is that a word? Yeah, it is for now. Okay, so he mantrified some lemon, one lemon, and blew some mantras on that lemon, potentized that lemon, and put it under the seat of the person coming to take this music exam. Music exam. And that, was a young man. And that young man opened his mouth the whole time he did that, and not one swara, not even one note could come out. And of course, he lost the competition. And after that, and clearly he was more qualified of the two. I mean, the other one who had given money. And of course, this happened in Kali Yuga. And so, so the person who made these incantations and potentized this lemon, mantrified the lemon, felt terribly bad, and then gave up. This did a lot of atonement, prayaschitta, and then gave up his ways. But those spells are there. And whenever there are these mantras, that means there are takers for it. Oh, but if it is in the Veda, why not use it? Because what else is in the Veda is dharma. So if you transgress dharma, you will have to pay the consequences. That is why to desist from these kinds of things, because who wants to sit and pay consequences for not only the rest of one's life, but life after life after life after life after life? Who wants to do that? That is why we don't take those things even if they are offered. But those things are there. In the Atharva Veda, there are all kinds of spells. You can change the weather, you can change so many things, you can change people's moods. Suddenly, the calm person will become angry, and like this, you can do a lot of things. So, this all constitutes the first portion of the Veda. It is a compendium of desire fulfillment. It's a compendium of how to fulfill desires. That is what the first portion of the Veda is. And human desires being so huge, vast. Therefore, what? Therefore, we have the first portion of the Veda takes up a lot of space, because it has to address each and every silly desire that comes in the head, that could possibly come in the head of anybody. It has to address. And so the first portion of the Veda is huge, big, very big. And if you start chanting the Veda now and continue non-stop, Akhanda Patha, if you do for 10 days, you will still not run out of the first portion of the Veda. It's that big. And so therefore, this is where the people are. And if you ask the question, why does the Veda, support this? Why does the Veda, and Bhagavan is the author of the Vedas, because Vedas were not written by anybody. The Hindu tradition does not have a founder. And the Vedas were channeled by sages in deep states of meditation. And so, therefore, you might ask, why is it there? If the whole purpose is for me to study the Upanishad, is to connect myself to the truth and to understand myself as whole, free, without a second. If that is the point, then why is this huge compendium of desires? Why is it there? It is there because the Veda is very compassionate. Bhagavan is very compassionate. Shruti, the teachings are very compassionate. Why are they compassionate? Because they reach you where you are, right? Even though that's not where one will end up or should end up. But right now, this is where the person is. Right now, the 2-year-old is having a tantrum, and that tantrum has to be addressed. The 2-year-old is crying because the 4-year-old, the sibling of the 2-year-old, snatched the balloon, and while snatching the balloon, burst the balloon, a big pop, which first scared the 2-year-old and then made it very, very, very sad. It's crying, my balloon is gone, my balloon is lost. And suppose if the parents put this child on the lap and say, well, you know what, don't forget the balloon. You are Brahman. You are the whole. You are free. Is it able to listen? Is it able to understand? Is it able to assimilate this? Not at all. And same thing, in the people, even though they may be in the bodies of adults, everybody has got some remnants of this childhood leftover wants, unrequited wants, unrequited desires, which make up the unconscious, and which in psychological parlance is called the inner child. And not just one, there may be many inner children. Sometimes they behave like brats, but so there they are. And so for this mixed up person, literally mixed up, because the one asking for knowledge is the adult, the one approaching the teacher is the adult, the one wanting to study the Upanishad is the adult, and the one wanting attention, the one wanting desires, the one that is self-sabotaging this quest is this inner baby, confused, mixed up. So how, tell me, how is the Shruti supposed to proceed? The Shruti has to start somewhere. The Shruti has to start somewhere, and the Shruti has to bring this person within its embrace, within her embrace. So, like a mother hugs the tantrum child, the child having a tantrum, hugs the child and then says, "It'll all be okay. Don't worry. Forget Brahman. I will get you another balloon." That's what the child wants to hear. "I'll get you not one, but I'll get you 10 balloons. Don't worry." And your brother or sister, whoever that pesky 4-year-old is, that one was always like that. And this one is always demanding, always wanting things. You are the best, east or west. This is what the child wants to hear. The child just wants to be validated at this point. And so the Shruti does the same thing to this mixed up version of this child slash adult that is coming for in search of the knowledge. Doesn't know what it wants, makes impulsive decisions, and then cannot stick to those decisions. One minute, yes, I want the Upanishad. Another minute, no, 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 I don't feel like it. I want something else. And so this kind of a confused, distrustful and fearful and tearful adult is who the mixed up with the inner child is the one that is addressed in the first portion of the Veda, because somehow the person has to be brought into the circle of dharma and brought into the circle of spiritual growth, emotional maturity. And you can't do it directly because the person is not ready. So the first portion of the Veda does it extremely beautifully. How? By offering a whole buffet of desires and ways to fulfill them. So then, when the person goes to the table, all these favorite dishes are there, and how to take them, how to serve yourself, what to take, and all this. The choices are so many, and the jiva becomes very happy. But don't worry, if you think the Shruti is succumbing to the jiva's tantrum, that is not correct. Then, if we said that, we would be totally wrong. The Shruti has a plan all along. The Veda has a plan. The Veda has a plan of growing up this inner child. How? First, by giving it what it wants, allowing it to have what it wants. And then after that, what? After that, once it has what it wants, then it can sit quietly and listen. And then it is told, in order to continue having what you want, you have to follow these conditions. The time for disciplining has come. Just like the mother will say, if you want dessert, you have to have dinner first. It's a rule. And if you want to go out, you have to do your homework. It's a rule. And so this way, the Shruti also says, you want this desire fulfilled. This is the only path you are going to take. You're going to take the dharmic path of prayer and surrender. It puts the first portion of the Veda, puts the jiva on a diet of prayer and surrender. Makes this shouting, screaming child into a devotee. Very safe place to be. And that is its purpose. That is its purpose. Its purpose is to grow up this inner child by putting it on a diet of prayer. How does prayer grow the person up? Because, really speaking, the person doesn't have to pray. In fact, the person need not pray at all. And the person often doesn't pray because the person is busy preying upon all kinds of things and the patience of people, etc. So the jiva is a predator wanting to hijack this, want this, give me that. All this is talked about in the Bhagavad Gita in the 16th chapter as asuri sampatti. That is, the tendency is to be an asura. An asura is the one who just lives for themselves and not, completely uncognizant of what other people want and how one might be hurting others. And so this is how the jiva lives. And such a jiva has to be told, follow dharma, follow dharma. And when you follow dharma, what happens is that you start to get a little more mature, a little more calm. The urgency of the desire, wanting to fulfill the desire, precedes to the background. The urgency goes away. And why does the urgency goes away? Because prayer is an important form of action. You forget that. Prayer is action. A desire that is not acted upon can cause frustration. But prayer is, is a action. And so when you pray, in a way, it's a relief, because now it is in the lap of Ishvara, it's in the lap of Bhagavan, it's in the lap of God. So therefore, I don't have to try and fulfill this. I don't have to worry about it. There is a sense of release from that object that one was preying upon, Preying. So the putting the jiva on a diet, on a daily diet of discipline and prayer, grows the person up and brings out that relative shanti in the human being, a kind of a shanti, a peace that presides between the fulfillment of one desire and the rise of another. There is some peace. And so through prayer, this little, minuscule unit of time between the fulfillment of one desire and the rise of another is extended. And one can enjoy larger and larger swaths of peace. This is so the Veda has accomplished a very important thing, has calmed the impatient and demanding and impatient, demanding, and inconsiderate jiva into a calm, accommodative jiva who is now a devotee. This is amazing, because really prayer is an action, because you need not pray. You can go rob a bank, one can go rob a bank, one can go biff somebody on the head and get whatever one wants, but instead one is choosing to pray. And that's why prayer is punya karma. It is a karma which has meritorious effects. And you know why that is? Because one is choosing to do this. So in prayer and in any other kind of reaching out actions, the will is indeed very, very free. Otherwise, the will is bound around all kinds of repeating desires. Desires which keep repeating themselves, desires which drive one wild. So even though the person in the first attracted to and located in, so to speak, has made the first portion of the Veda their home, such a person, even though they are only into wish fulfillment, in the background there is growth taking place. There is emotional maturity happening, because sometimes you pray and you ask Bhagavan this, give me this. And sometimes one thinks, somebody told me this. I have kept on asking this for the last 6 years, and Bhagavan is not giving it to me. And who said? You said in one of your talks, this lady told me, you said in one of the talks that all prayers are answered. I said, yes, indeed, all prayers are answered. Sometimes the answer is no. That's all. And that you have to be able to see that. No or not yet. Not yet. Just like the child sitting in the back seat of the car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? The parents patiently, sometimes impatiently said, no, no, not there yet, not there yet. Even here, no. Why not? Because you have a mountain of karma, Mount Everest style karma, standing in the way of fulfillment of this desire. And it is very difficult to dislodge. No, but then karma, where did it come from? your own actions. When you go against dharma, what happens? That is karma. Oh, but how in one life I could have accumulated this mountain of resistance to fulfilling my desires? Maybe not in one life, maybe in 10 lives. But this is what is there. Sometimes the prayer can dislodge small karmas. But sometimes if the karma is like as big as the Himalayas, it is very difficult to dislodge. And so one has to change the channel perhaps and ask for something else instead. That is the only way. Ask for something that is more in keeping with one's karma. If one's karma is not there for this, then what is the point of leading a frustrated life and wasting the entire life? And so, this way, the first portion of the Veda grooms the jiva, bathes the jiva of the raga dveshas, teaches the jiva how to accept disappointments, sends the jiva to the school of dharma, and then teaches how to not snatch other children's toys. All this has to be taught. There is competition, but it has to be healthy, it has to follow certain rules. All this, the first portion of the Veda teaches. It is just so fascinating, so beautiful. And then, out of the thousands of the people going to the school of the first portion of the Veda, a few end up graduating. Why? Because the recidivism is, the attrition rate is high, recidivism is high. And so there are very few who are blessed enough to graduate. That how does this graduation take place? The graduation takes place in the form of an inner yearning and an unrest. Even though everything is going along swimmingly well, you have mastered the art of dharma, or you are in the process of mastering the art of dharma, you have mastered discipline, and you have mastered how to be patient, you are mastering acceptance. And plus, your life is not all that bad. Everything is going along okay. Yes, sometimes Shani, the planet, the troublemaker planet. We have three or four troublemaker planets, and so Shani is one of them. Saturn is in the wrong place, and then is giving some problems. Okay, no problem. But then barring that, everything is all going okay. It is okay. And so then what? So therefore, but still, what explains this yearning? This is the signs, the early signs of graduation is a stirring, a yearning, and a questioning. A questioning which is really a form of self-inquiry. Is this all life is about? Is this what life is about? Fulfilling desires, going and doing this, coming back, cooking, eating, cleaning, and then washing the plates, and then putting it away, or just so that the whole cycle starts again. Nothing wrong with cooking and eating, but the person who is questioning, is this all there is to life? Going to work, coming back, going to work, coming back. And then 5 days of the week, one is rushing to work, and the other 2 days one crashes like a computer, like a machine. And then the whole year one works and then gets 2 weeks off. The whole week one works and gets 2 days off. So is this what this life is about? What are these cycles, and why do they irk me? What is it that I really want? Who is this I that is going about all these activities like a mindless zombie? This is what the graduation from the first portion of the Veda looks like. Even though at first it might be terrifying. Oh, until yesterday I was fine. What is happening now? Why am I getting these yearnings to leave everything and go? That is called Vairagya. Is this all what life is about? Viveka, discrimination, dispassion. All these come, they are the graduation presents of graduating the first portion of the Veda. And just like the parents give a present when the offspring graduates from high school, or college. Similarly here, the Shruti gives the present, the blessing of viveka, discernment, between what? Between what I am pursuing and what I really want. What I really want is forever, is the forever, and what I am pursuing is the finite. So there is a means ends problem. The means that I am using to find the ends that I need, there is a mismatch. This is Viveka. What I want is Nitya, that which never comes to an end. And what I am pursuing, anything that I pursue in this universe other than myself, is finite. This is Viveka. And Vairagya, which follows in its heels, talks like this. It says, well, if I want that which never comes to an end, if I want Nitya, then why am I having all these dead end pursuits? Why am I participating in that which I don't want? So therefore, I'm going to let these pursuits and let these desires that power the pursuits drop. And that is why that is how I will make sure that I will go from the first portion to the second portion of the Veda. You see, the audience is completely different. The audience is different. Adhikari means audience. The one who has the adhikara, the one who is qualified to study the second portion of the Veda is completely different from the one to whom the first portion of the Veda looks very good. The subject matter is different. What is the subject matter of the first portion of the Veda? As I said, means and ends. What means should I use in order to get a desirable end? And here the Veda is very, very, very creative, extremely creative. Sometimes there are known means. So the known means, like, okay, I have to give donation. For what? So that I will get a place in Swarga, heaven. Because the human being is not just enough planning for life. The person has to also plan for some kind of a pleasant afterlife. So the end is unknown. Who has gone to heaven and come back? Nobody to tell the tale of what it is like to have chai with Indra, the king of heaven. Nobody. Nobody has gone and come back. And nobody has brought a selfie with Lord Yama. Here, look. No. This was taken at the moment of departing the last life. Look, me and Yama in a selfie. No such thing there. There is a curtain between this life and the next. So nobody even knows what's going on. Still, there is a desire for the afterlife and heaven. And securing this heaven, I will feel secure. The insecure I wants to secure everything. And this is the problem. And so therefore, so here when we talk about heaven, it's an unknown end. Nobody knows. But the means I know. I have to give a lot of money in donation and then I will go to heaven. This is what the Veda says. Sometimes the means are unknown, but the end is known. Like in Putrakameshti Yajna. There is a homa called Putrakameshti. Ishti means homa. Putrakama means the desire for progeny. A childless couple does this homa in order to beget a child. And then what happens? The childless couple, does the homa, and then there is you don't know what you're doing. The priest who's assisting the homa says, put ghee there, put this here, offer this to the brahmanas that are present. And then somehow, a year later or 2 years later, the person, begets a child. How does this happen? There is no connection somehow. And that is how there are known means, unknown ends, unknown means, known ends. And this comprises the first portion of the Veda. The subject matter of the first portion of the Veda is desire fulfillment. Fulfilling the desire so that this cantankerous person is okay. The cantankerous inner child in the form of this grown-up jiva looks grown up anyway, stops crying. So the first portion of the Veda is like a giant pacifier, and dipped in some honey or something like that, so the child can go on sucking at it and then feeling secure for the time being until the mother can do her work. And then the subject matter of the second portion of the Veda is not the fulfillment of desire, not the fulfillment of desires. The subject matter of the second portion of the Veda is to inquire into and falsify the desiring person. The second portion of the Veda, known as the Upanishad, questions very strongly whether there is such a thing called a desiring person. Is that a reality? Is that person real? No, that person cannot be real. And that person is not real because the person is without desires in sleep and seems to be perfectly fine and in moments of happiness. So already there is a contradiction, because that which is real you cannot get away from. Abadhitam sat. Abadhitam means it is not, it does not ever come to an end. That is what is called real. That is the definition of real. So here, the desiring person is not real. Then the question arises, what is the nature of this reality of this person? What is this person? If that person is, he or she is not a desiring person, who are they? Who are they really? Who is this person? And so that is what is the subject matter of the second portion of the Veda. Very, very interesting, very exciting to understand this. So the knower, the audience, the taker is different in both the portions of the Veda, and the subject matter is different. And then so this is, so the person is different, the audience is different. Audience is called adhikari. Adhikari is different. The subject matter, Vishaya, is different. And then the sambandha is also different. Sambandha means the relationship to the body of knowledge is different. Because in the first portion of the Veda, it's like a recipe book. A recipe book will just show you how many cups of milk, flour, all these things you have to put it to make a vegan cake. What all do you have to do? Milk will not be there, oil and water and all these things you have to do to make a vegetarian or vegan cake. So it will tell you. But reading the recipe book does not satisfy your hunger unless you eat the pages of the recipe book, okay? Because you can't wait to wait because you're so hungry. So the recipe book cannot satisfy the hunger, because first it shows you the way, and then you have to then, collect the ingredients. You have to collect the ingredients and do what it says. Here is a homa coming on. So what do you have to do? You have to collect the sticks, fire sticks, you have to collect the wood, you have to make some ghee, you have to do all these things. Just because the Homa primer says that this is how it should be offered, just because you read it, you don't get the punya of the Homa. The punya of the Homa, the results of the Homa are in the performance. In its performance, you get the results. But here in the second portion of the Veda, the sambandha between the adhikari and the book is very, very different. Vedanta is not a recipe. It is not telling you what to do. It is not telling you what you should not do. It is totally free of injunctions and prohibitions, vidhi and nishedha. It is in fact just telling you who you are. And that has to be understood and assimilated. You see, the relationship is very different. The relationship in the second portion of the Veda is Pratipadaka Pratipadya Sambandha. Revealer, revealed relationship. The person unto whom the knowledge is revealed is the student, and the revealer is the Shastra via the Guru. Because the Shastra does not speak directly, it needs to be handled by the teacher. And so So the adhikari is different, the audience is different, the subject matter vishaya is different, and then what else? The sambandha, the connection between the subject matter and the audience is different. Finally, the prayojana is very different. Prayojana means the purpose. The purpose of the first portion of the Veda is to keep samsara going and going and going. What is samsara? Some sorrow or the other is called samsara. And so this samsara means, the cycle of action and reaction, results of action, and all these cycles have to be kept going and going and going. This is the first portion of the Veda. Whereas the purpose of the second portion of the Veda is the total and full cessation of samsara. Now, where does having understood this broad strokes of how the first and the second portion differ, where is the Kalisantarana Upanishad placed? It is a bridge. It can be seen as a beautiful bridge between the first and the second portion of the Veda. How? We will find out in the next session. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. Thank you.